I used to obsess over what is the meaning of life. If I had known about it then, I wouldn't have bored everyone around me to death. To harp on the meaning of life is almost a sign of mental illness. Who in their right mind doesn't wonder that?
Hello and welcome to Square Face Reading. Today we're going to talk about a very special book, Man's Search for Meaning, a book about the mind by Austrian psychologist Viktor Frankl. Before we dive in, let's consider the following two questions. What do you think is the meaning of life? What makes you wake up every morning and feel motivated to face the day? Can we find inner strength and meaning in the midst of extreme adversity? Or are we able to stay positive in the face of adversity?
As early as 1946, Viktor E. Frankl had answered my question clearly and clearly. He had a clear, tried and true view of the meaning of life. After I watched Man's Search for Meaning, I admire it very much. No long piece of truth is better than a good story. If you read this book, no obscure theory is as good as a good story, including medical theory. Man's Search for Meaning was first published in 1946. Frankl was a German Jew, a psychiatrist, a scholar. In 1942, he was imprisoned by the Nazis in Auschwitz concentration camp, and later in other concentration camps, narrowly escaped death, serving 3 years of hard labor, during which his wife and parents were killed. After his release, he distilled his experiences in prison into a small book, originally called Say Yes to Life Anyway, a psychiatrist's experience in a concentration camp, in German, titled Man's Search for Meaning, in English, and a good Chinese translation as Living Meaning. The book changed again and again, and Frankl revised it twice, mainly by adding a summary of medical theory. By the time of Frankl's death in 1995, 10 million copies had been sold and translated into at least 24 languages. The book is based on the concentration camp experience, assisted by medical theories. The title also became Man's Search for Meaning, an introduction to logotherapy. Logotherapy is a psychiatric therapy founded by Frankl, known as the Third Vienna School of Psychotherapy. The first school is Freudian psychoanalysis, and the second school is Albert's rational emotional behavior. Frankl founded the school, and it was based on this book. Frankl's book is clear and insightful, and it is a moving story. The book stands out among the voluminous records of Nazi concentration camps during World War II, as it is both the author's personal harrowing experience and a scientist's sober summary of observations. The author said from the beginning that he did not want to write a concentration camp account, and that he only wanted to answer one question: what is the psychological process of an ordinary prisoner living in a concentration camp every day? His subjects were ordinary, unknown prisoners, including himself, and their reactions to the environment. What fascinates me most is the author's earnestness and detachment. Based on his own heart, he tried to be honest and not deceived. At the same time, with the professional calm attitude of a doctor, he transcended the harsh environment at that time, without self-pity, complaint, or talk. This kind of writing and attitude not only let people feel his tough heart and excellent pure mind, but also let people fully understand his inhuman situation. He does not need to talk, feelings have been abundant. In fact, such a realm has reached a considerable height in literature. Such a man, which can only be described with diamonds, is a noble man, a pure man, a moral man, a man who is out of vulgar taste, a man who is good for the people. Everything fits.
There is a passage in the book about the author in the ice and snow, empty stomach, wearing leaky shoes, full of frostbite feet, being beaten by the prison head, to the construction site of the railway. His mind is full of complaints. Tonight's dinner will not be a few more beans, and later will be sent to another strange cruel plumber, how long the foot of this shoe can support. He suddenly realized that these thoughts were so trivial and humble that they were not helpful to his state of existence, so he turned his mind and began to analyze his situation from a professional perspective and study his mental state from a professional distance. Such a transformation, in fact, not many people can do. I believe that such dissociation is a habit he developed in the concentration camp, and the foundation of this book is laid in this way. Sometimes, he dissociates himself from the current environment and talks to his beloved wife in his heart, so that love is full of his heart. At that time, the wife is still alive or not, there is no difference. The ability to use imagination to separate from reality is a unique human ability that helps people survive in extremely harsh environments. Really touched. So the theory, he said, was accepted unconsciously. Story plus emotion plus vernacular equals psychotherapeutic theory.
His theory goes like this: man's search for meaning in life is the original force in his life. This meaning is unique, and only men can and must practice it. Only when it is put into practice can it satisfy man's will for meaning. The task of meaning therapy is to help people find meaning in their lives. The meaning of life is different for each person, it is different for each stage of life, and it must be sought for himself, and when he finds it, he can hope to get rid of the neurological symptoms of the emptiness of life. The meaning of life is something real. Like mothers living for their children. 1. Creation and work. 2. Recognize values such as love. 3. Suffer. Frankl believed that everyone could find their own meaning in life, either by creating and working, experiencing something or loving someone, and that in extreme cases, when all pleasure was denied, inevitable suffering was itself the meaning of life. He learned a third way from his experience in the concentration camps. In extremely harsh conditions where a person is stripped down to his own body or mind, he still has the freedom to choose what attitude to adopt towards the environment, whether to actively and arduously use every condition to survive, or to give up the desire to live and bow to fate. The choice of attitude is the only whole dignity and meaning. And people can choose to say yes to life. So Frankl was a pessimistic optimist. He knows that life is meaningless, but he wants to inspire all people to find meaning for themselves. The mission of his school of psychiatry was to help the patient find his own meaning in every way possible. In contrast to psychoanalysis, which regarded men as a passive product of the objective environment, Frankl placed man's subjective will in a more important position. I couldn't agree more with Frankl. From my life experience of half a lifetime, I also believe that what attitude to respond to the environment, whether it is good or bad, really determines the trajectory of life. The so-called character determines fate. Of course, there are times of frustration, disappointment, and pessimism, and there is no need to be ashamed. You should learn to pull yourself out of negative emotions, and then sincerely believe that tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow really will be fine. Different ages have different pursuits for life. It is a good thing to pursue ideals when you are young. It is normal to pursue a wife, children, and family when you are old. Frankl said that at different stages of life, spiritual life means different things.
In the past few weeks, I didn't see any movies, and I didn't have any mood to read. Fortunately, I met this good book and couldn't put it down, forcing me to take time out of my busy work to finish reading it. It was a blessing. As Lu Sun said, time is like cleavage, squeeze it will have.
I can't remember when I read this book, 3 years ago or 4 years ago. When my mom asked me what I wanted to do in my freshman year, she offered me ideas like fashion magazine editing, travel agency, luxury management. I shook my head and said, yes, I am very interested, but what is the point of these jobs? After she offered several more options and I still shook my head, she finally got angry and said, why do you need meaning? Work is work, you do happy, it can provide you with material, don't you? What she didn't know then, and I didn't even realize it myself, was that I was the kind of person who sought meaning. But I began to slowly realize that people are different. Some people are down to earth every day, practical and clear goals, which makes me feel extremely envious. Because I was constantly scolded by my mother as an unrealistic type of person. But one day I finally realized that there is another kind of people who must carry the cross of finding meaning, not as a duty, but as a duty. What is the meaning of life? What is life? It thought about it for 4 years, graduated from college. The meaning of life is sometimes clear, but sometimes it is ethereal. I keep thinking of a quote my philosophy teacher used in his class. man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but he should realize that he is the one being questioned by life. It was written by Viktor Frankl, who survived 3 years in a concentration camp during the Nazi era and founded logotherapy, meaning therapy. Until the day before yesterday, I finished reading his book entitled Man's Search for Meaning, and the moment I closed the book, I deeply regretted why I had not read it earlier. One of Frankl's favorite quotes from Nietzsche: "Everyone who knows why to live can bear almost all the questions of how to live." It is also possible to reverse this statement and say, everyone who does not know why lives cannot answer the question of how to live. Or to put it more simply, when you do not know the purpose of an event, you cannot carry out its process. Does this explain that many confused young people are addicted to various places of sex and entertainment, or abuse alcohol and drugs? They simply lose the meaning of life, and the void of their existence is replaced by a primitive will to enjoy. And my own chaotic days are lost in the meaning of life. Back to the eternal question of life: what to live for? What is the meaning of life? Frankl cunningly avoided answering this question on behalf of the patient. His famous words, "In the end, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is. Instead, he should realize that he is the one being questioned by life." I think what he means is that everyone can answer for himself, for what he should be responsible, and to whom he should be responsible. And at the same time, everyone should realize that he should not be the taker of life, but should be the giver. Life is asking you every moment what you can give your life. Frankl didn't answer for us directly what meaning is, but his meaning therapy offers 3 ways to discover it for yourself. 1. By creating a job or doing a real thing. 2. By experiencing something or meeting someone. 3. Through our attitude to inevitable suffering. To sum up these 3 concrete ways of implementation, it is simply reduced to 2 levels: the level of life, namely creation and love; the level of death, the pain and loss. As a survivor of Nazi concentration camps, Frankl experienced death on a much larger and deeper level than ordinary people. Here he puts more emphasis on describing the meaning of the process of suffering and suffering itself for life. He put forward the idea of tragic optimism, that is, if the suffering of life is inevitable and unavoidable tragedy, then it should also be faced with optimism. If you need to cry, then please smile and cry. To sum up these 3 concrete ways of implementation, it is simply reduced to 2 levels: the level of life, namely creation and love; the level of death, the pain and loss. As a survivor of Nazi concentration camps, Frankl experienced death on a much larger and deeper level than ordinary people. Here he puts more emphasis on describing the meaning of the process of suffering and suffering itself for life. He put forward the idea of tragic optimism, that is, if the suffering of life is inevitable and unavoidable tragedy, then it should also be faced with optimism. If you need to cry, then please smile and cry. He also believes that if the tragedies of life can be divided into 3 kinds: pain, guilt and death, then people also have 3 potentials in the face of difficulties. 1. Turn pain into achievement. 2. Gain the opportunity to improve yourself from guilt. 3. Gain the motivation to act responsibly from the brevity of life. In daily life, people are more inclined to recognize the meaning of the life level. People will think that only when you create value, love and be loved are given the aura of meaning. But Frankl said that every pain, every failure, every despair was also possessed of a deep meaning. Especially in the pain, we can go through the pain, the spirit has been experienced, pointing to the next success. Even if we commit heinous crimes, regret and guilt, we gain the opportunity for self-improvement, spiritual self-transcendence. Even in the face of death, we can learn to be more responsible with ourselves and others. We should live every day as if we were born again, and we should live as if we were about to repeat our old mistakes. To live to death, to experience pain, to understand suffering, is the most lacking lesson for this greenhouse flower of mine. If I understand the meaning of pain, then the next rolling moment, I can be more fearless to face, and even enjoy. There is no need to be ashamed of tears. Tears just show the courage to bear suffering. Pain should not be mourned, but enjoyed. Today's young people slowly began to step into society, began to take responsibility, began to arrive at a little pain. But remember, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If Nietzsche was free to roam in his own spiritual world, Frankl was a dancer in chains. Nietzsche is like a dancer singing the song of life, arrogant and arrogant. And Frankl was like a lone sail in the midst of the storm, looking for hope in the midst of despair.
If you are interested in exploring the meaning of life, finding inner strength, and maintaining a positive attitude in the face of adversity, then Man's Search for Meaning is definitely worth reading. In this book, you may find some important points that change your perspective on life. If you've read the book, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. If you think this video is good, please do not be stingy with your likes, so that you can increase the weight of YouTube recommended my video. If the video is helpful to you, please remember to subscribe to share. I am Squareface. We will see you next time.